Are you ready to turn your potential into performance? If so, you're in the right place. This is the Coach Brew Show, and here's your host, John Brubaker.
Welcome to the Coach Brew Show, Performance Report, episode number 497. We often get inspiration from unlikely places. The genesis of today's conversation actually came from a conversation I had with country singer, songwriter, and entrepreneur Stephanie Quayle. I interviewed her earlier this month at her Nashville home, and we got on the subject of all things, Post-it notes. She had writer's block one day, and she was telling me that she's just watching TV, and this Post-it commercial came on, and it actually inspired her to write her new song of the same name, Post-it, and all of which in turn inspired me to write an article about the very same subject, and that's what we're talking about right now. So this fabulous Post-it note commercial is of a young lady who is practicing and preparing for the day that high school basketball tryouts come around, and you see her like waking up in the morning in her room. She grabs a Post-it note and she jumps as high as she can with the Post-it note in her hand and just tries to stick it up on the wall as high as possible. So you see her do this 10, 20, 30, 100 times, kind of not in real time, obviously, but over and over and over again. And the Post-it notes keep getting piled up higher and higher on her bedroom wall. And then you fast forward to the day that basketball tryouts come around, and she is standing in front of the basket with just about every single other kid trying out who's just towering over her, a foot or 2 feet taller than her. And the coach asks someone, to go for, who wants to go first? You have no idea when you're watching this what the drill is, but this young, fairly confident looking now young lady steps up, and you see her jump and touch the backboard. And as she's coming down, they don't show her coming down. They show a Post-it note that was in her hand. They show that Post-it note stuck to the backboard. And then, of course, they show all of the kids on the team just absolutely blown away by the fact that she was able to jump that high. And it's on the note, it says, "Tomorrow I'll jump even higher." And just the level of intentionality and confidence. It's just really inspiring. That's what inspired Stephanie to write a song about Post-it notes and me to talk to you about the very same subject right now. And it's just fascinating because over and over and over again, we literally fail our way to success. Sometimes we just don't know it in the moment. The failure stings too much, our ego's bruised. And in some cases, that sting can last for years. So I want you to make me a promise. The next time you struggle with something, remember this story you're about to hear, and it might actually change your perspective on failure. Deal? Great, I thought so. So in 1968, Spencer Silver was a chemist for 3M Corporation in Minnesota, and he was tasked with creating an ultra-strong new adhesive. 3M makes tape and containers and all sorts of adhesive products. And no matter what Silver did, none of his formulas in the lab worked. He just kept failing and failing and failing over and over and over again. He couldn't make the adhesive that goes on the tape any stronger than their existing formulas. Something interesting happened in these countless attempts to create this new super adhesive. He actually wound up creating the exact opposite. it was weaker and weaker and weaker. So I guess some ideas stick and others don't. But instead, what silver actually invented were what's called microspheres. And a microsphere is this chemical compound that's self-adhering to paper. And you see where this is going. But also has a removable and sort of repositionable characteristic to it. So it would stick to surfaces just enough, but not too much. So Spencer Silver pitched the idea for using this microadhesive to the executives at 3M for about 5 years. But since there was absolutely no demonstrated need in the market for it, it was just viewed as a solution without a problem. Not a problem without a solution without a problem. And they didn't think it would sell. And then you fast forward 5 years, in 1973, it finally was used initially just as a type of bookmark. But then, 12 years after he invented this in 1968, 12 years later in 1980, Post-it notes hit the market. They started selling. Now you fast forward to today, and would you believe 50 billion, with a B, 50 billion Post-it notes are sold each year. Now here's a fun fact, too. They never patented this microsphere adhesive formula because if they did, and this is actually a really smart strategy, if they did, then they'd have to tell people how it was made, the U.S. Patent and Trade Office. And that would eliminate any competitive advantage they had in the market. So it was really smart. What I find fascinating is sort of the irony of Post-it notes. It's essentially a self-advertising product, if you think about it. People receive something with a Post-it note on it, like, for example, a survey or a stack of papers, reports at work. So you see something with that Post-it note on it, bright canary yellow Post-it, and it stays top of mind with them. And they're going to send something back, probably with a Post-it note on it as well. And it's basically a reminder for them to purchase some themselves. And the reason I think that's ironic is that 3M commercial I described to you. So if you just type into YouTube Post-it note commercials, you're going to see some amazing, creative, inspirational commercials that their advertising department, their creative departments made. And there's absolutely some of the most touching commercials you'll ever watch. That's the irony of it. It's self-advertising, but they get these amazing commercials. Now, what's even more interesting to me is, literally speaking, Post-it notes might not stick long-term, but their characteristics sure make your message stick better. Stick with me on this, no pun intended. If you're not already using Post-its, when you make requests of people, what you're about to hear and what you're about to learn will make you want to. Dr. Randy Garner is a professor at Sam Houston State University in Texas. Conducted a study on what's called behavioral compliance. What he did was he asked people to complete a survey in the mail. So a group of people would receive this packet with a request to complete it, handwritten on a Post-it note that was attached to the cover sheet. So that particular group that received it with a handwritten request on a Post-it note had a significantly higher response rate with the survey. They'd fill it out and return it at a much higher rate than 3 different groups of participants. So their response rate was 76%. There were 3 other groups who received the same survey. Group 1 got the same request, but it was written on the cover sheet without a Post-it. And that was just a 48% response rate. Group 2, a cover letter with only with no handwritten message. So it was just a cover letter, like a form letter attached to the survey. That was it. 36%. So you got 76% with a handwritten post-it. Same request without a post-it, 48%. And in this group, no handwritten message whatsoever, 36%. And here's where it gets really interesting. There's a fourth group. And what they received was a blank post-it note on the cover sheet, but had no handwritten message. So blank post-it on that survey was a 43% response rate. And here's something fascinating. The surveys with the post-it handwritten instructions were completed and also returned faster. Now, these results stand to reason, like almost 35 percentage points difference in some cases here. They stand to reason because it's handwritten, number one. Number two, it's personalized by name, like one person writing personally to another individual. And number three, that canary yellow post-it note stands out as being a little out of place stuck on top of a survey. So it immediately garners your attention. I think the takeaway message for us is that personal touch makes a world of difference. You can send out electronic surveys all you want. You can send out a very impersonal typed cover sheet. But personal touch makes a world of difference. Now, the magic power isn't simply the post-it note itself. It lies in the fact that you hand wrote a one-to-one request from one person to another. That's the key. So try this with requests you make at the office or with mail outs of your own. You can try and stick a message to your child's door with a request to make their bed. Tell me how that goes. Let me know what happens. My wife and I leave post-it notes in our kids' lunch boxes. That being said, now that they're in middle school, that's not so cool anymore when Dad does that, so I need to stop. I'd love to know what the craziest way is that you use post-it notes. You can reach out to me, john@coachbrew.com. Let me know. I use them in kind of a weird way. I use them to rearrange the book chapters in the writing process when I'm writing a book. I slap each chapter title on a post-it note, and I kind of rearrange those notes on a poster board until I have the right chapter sequence. But you already know I'm a little weird or you wouldn't be listening to this. So let me know craziest way you've used post-it notes. And this has been the Performance Report, episode number 497. And we will catch you next week. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening to The Coach Brew Show. If you're not currently subscribed to the podcast, sign up now on iTunes, Google Play, or Stitcher. And for more information to turn your potential into performance, head on over to coachbrew.com now.